All right. Hello everybody. Welcome to another video, and today we are going to learn Rust concept in an easy way. So what we're going to do, we will create a simple command line utility. All right. So without any delay, let's get started. So let me head over to my terminal over here. Before moving further, let's see what all requirements do we need. So I will simply open a browser to show you guys what we need. Opening. It's taking time. So this PC basically has 8 gigs of RAM right now. So all right. Yeah. This over here, as you can see. So before moving ahead in the program, let's see what all requirements do we need. And generally, before building any software or creating any program, we do a requirement gathering session, right? So we just took a high level idea of what all do we need in our program, so let's just do that. All right, so let me just show you by a simple Google. Okay, this is our program and these are the requirements, right? So by the way, we are creating a counter application, so it will simply increment a counter, decrement a counter, reset a counter based on the commands, right? So because we are creating a command line application, we will not have any buttons over there to increment or decrement, so it will totally be command line based, right? So if a user inputs inc or maybe simply an increment or whatever commands he give from the command line, we will use that command to change the value of the counter, right? So taking input is of course the first requirement from the user, right? Command line, right? Second thing that we need to do, yeah, the requirement is only one, right? Taking input from the user. I don't know why I have created this one. Yeah. And what all actions do we need to perform over here? Let me just do that as well. All right, so we need to perform few actions over here, right? We need to first match the statements, right? What does it mean, match the statement? It means, let's say a user input inc or dec, so we need to match what we need to do, right? So just like in switch cases, we need to match the statement, and in Rust we use match keyword over there. So first of all, we need to match the statements over here. Secondly, we need to print the updated counter values to the user, right? So basically these two things that we have to perform: first, take the input from the user, match the statement or whatever action we have to perform, and print that updated value to the user, right? So it's a very simple application. You must have seen it somewhere. Usually in most interviews they ask this to create a counter. Let's do that now that we have our requirement over here. Yeah, one more thing, let me just show you what all concepts we gonna need in this, right? So concepts. So these are the concepts that we'll cover in this topic. First one is, of course, print line. Second one is taking input. Third one is looping. We're gonna use loop. We don't want user to just use the application only once and it just exit out, right? So we need to somehow loop the process so that it's up to the user, or maybe we can keep a case like if users enter exit, we will exit out the application, right? So yeah, print line, taking input, looping, and case matching, and performing simple increment or decrement, or maybe reset, or maybe exit. All right, so this is what the requirements we have. These are the requirements. There is only one requirement. We need to take the input from the client. Secondly, we need to perform some operation on this program, right? Match the statement, print the updated values to the customer. And lastly, these are the concepts that we gonna learn in this, right? Print line, taking input, looping, case matching, performing simple increment, decrement, reset, or exit. All right, so with that said, let's open our terminal. All right, let me just minimize this window. So here we have our terminal. Let me just maximize it, clear it a bit. Now that we are in our terminal, we need to create our project, right? So let me just go to a directory. By the way, you can also follow along this code. So we will use cargo new counter. So as you can see, few files has been generated. Let's head over to the directory counter. Now let's open it in any IDE of your choice. As you can see, we have toml file src main.rs. Now we need to do something over here, main.rs. Now again, let's head over to the requirement page over here. All right, the first requirement is taking input from the user, right? So how do we do that? There is a library, or a crate in Rust, standard input output crate, so we're gonna use that. But for that we need to create a variable first. So let's just create a variable first and name it command, right? And it will be of type string dot from. So by the way, if you guys are wondering why I'm looking here and then here, because here is my bigger monitor and my actual keyboard is over here, and I'm not very well at typing like without seeing, so that's why I have to keep. Anyways, so we have created our variable over here, that is a string. And yeah, and one more thing, now that we will take input from the user, then this command variable will keep on updating, right? So we need to make it mutable. Okay, so we create any variable mutable by using mute keyword, right? So here is the variable declaration for you guys, right? So this is how we declare a variable. We use let keyword, we use const keyword, but for now we will use let keyword. So let variable name, and now we need it mutable, so we have used mute. All right. And secondly, whatever users enter in terminal will get stored in this command variable, right? Because we're gonna use this command variable. So for that we're gonna use IO crate. All right. So IO, we'll use it from standard IO. Inside IO we have an associated function called standard input, as you can see. So we have details over here. It construct a new handle to standard input of the current process. All right. We'll use this standard input, and inside this we have a method called read line, right? So what does it do? It locks this handle to read input, appending it to the specified buffer. All right, I think we need this. Yeah, okay. Let's just use this read line, and this is the buffer, right? So whatever user inputs, that buffer should be stored in that variable, right? Now this buffer, as you can see over here, it takes a mutable string, a reference to a mutable string. So as you can see, we have created our mutable string over here, mute command, but in order to use its reference, we will use this ampersand. So mute command. All right. Now one more thing over here, we have to handle the error cases over here, right? Let's say if there is an error on the input, then we want the user to see some message, right? So for that we're gonna use this method expect. Now what does expect do? As you can see over here, it returns the contained OK value consuming the self value, right? So what are the panics cases over here? So panics if the value is an error. Okay, all right, let's see over here. Now it has something over here. As you can see, this example is the like very good example over here. So as you can see, this line over here, it is taking an env variable, it is trying to read an env variable, but they have handled it by using this. Let's say there is no variable on the env file like this, so we want the user to see some message, right? So this expect method will help us do that. So as you can see, it will read this env variable from the file, like env file dot env file, and if there isn't any path or this variable important path, then it will show this to the user. Env variable important path should be set by this, right? So we're gonna use that, and we will use expect, and we'll write over here, there is something wrong with your command line. All right. So our first requirement has been completed, that is take the input from the user, right? This was the first requirement. So if you guys want to see what the user have entered, we can simply put a println over here. Println, not very good at spelling things, and command, right? You can enter something like you you entered this command, right? So yeah, so what do we do to test the REST application? We'll simply save it, open the terminal, and we'll use a command called cargo build. Now one more thing over here, you don't need to like always perform cargo build, right? So you can simply go ahead and hit cargo run, that will do both the operations. So cargo build, so as you can see, build has been like finished successfully, there is no errors. So now we can run cargo run. All right. So as you can see, there is no input right now, it's just simply ran, right? Because we haven't add any statement that welcome to our counter application and all, but we'll simply use, let's say we entered the command inc, so it says you entered inc. Now there is an important thing to note over here. This inc has a new line over here, right, slash new line. So we need to do something about it, because whenever I hit inc and enter from the command line, this is trailing this command, right? So we need to trim this. So let me exit this. All right, second requirement, that is performing the operation matching the cases, right? For that we need to create a mutable variable as well, and let's name it counter, and the initial value of counter will be 0. Okay, I hope you guys like having the idea why I kept that mutable, because while performing increment and decrement, this variable needs to be updated, right? So that is why I kept it mutable. So mutable and immutable basically means if a variable can be updated, it's mutable, right? It can mutate. And if a variable cannot be updated, or it is so it's immutable. So by default in Rust, every variable that we create is immutable, and everything that we create is basically private by nature by default in Rust. All right, so that's how it is in Rust. So now a second requirement is matching the cases, performing the operation, right? As I told earlier that this read line method, we need to handle it by match cases. So how do we do that? We use a match keyword. Now match, and match on what? We need to use it on command, right? And as we have seen that we need to trim it, right? Because there is an unnecessary new line over there, so we need to trim it, right? Now this is the syntax of match command trim. All right, now it says that missing match arm, right? So inside match we have the cases that we handle are known as arms, right? So let's say we received an inc now, and secondly let's say we receive an dec, that is decrement, and thirdly let's say we received an reset. And by default while using match cases, we need to use an exhaustive case as well, right? Because if nothing matches, then it will perform. So let's say println command not recognized, enter inc, dc, reset, or exit, right? These are the cases over here. It is similar to the switch case. So we have inc, dc, reset, and there is a must exhaustive case. It should be there, because let's say a value that doesn't, let's say I entered apple, so apple will never match this, never match this, never match this. So there should be an exhaustive case over there. It is used for better error handling. So now just go over there. In inc we need to perform counter plus equals 1. It's simple. In dc we need to perform counter minus equals 1, and in reset we need to perform counter equals 0. And after this we want the user to see this message, right? Println counter incremented by 1. So there's a lot more thing that you can do. Just be creative, right? Currently I am just defaulting the counter to 1, like increment by 1 step, right? But you can also take this value from the user, right? You can ask the user to give me a value that I can increment, right? So maybe you can create a calculator. So just be creative about it. Secondly, after decrementing, println counter decremented by 1, right? And on reset we'll simply println counter resets to 0. All right, so I think we have it there. Now the value of counter is never used. All right, so what we're gonna do is we will create a print line over here. Let's make it beautiful. Before value of counter. All right, this is counter. Now we should have get rid of this error. Now again you will use this counter. Now again we will show the user after value of counter. Counter. All right, so we have get rid of the error. Let's just introduce another very print line over here. Come on people, let's make it beautiful, man. Println welcome to the counter program. This looks shady. So we have our initial message and few print line statements to show what user that what is the current value and what is the after value. A match case that will perform operation. Now remember, this will perform only once. After one input it will exit, so we have to handle that as well. But let's first build this program and run cargo run. All right, finish. See, welcome to the counter program. We need to show another message over here like enter your command, right? So let's say inc. Okay, so as you can see, if I entered inc, it says before value of counter 0, counter incremented by 1, and after value of counter is 1, and the program exits, right? So I think this is working as per our need. Just introduce another message over here. Println enter your command. So we can enter your command inc dec reset, or all right, reset and enter exit to log out, let's say. All right, let's give a new line over here as like this. Okay, all right, so we need to put a semicolon over here. All right people, what happened, man? What happened? All right people, so here we are. We have like outlined basic program over here. Now we need to do just one more refinement over here. We want the user to keep entering the counter value so that he can have like some real counter kind of thing, because in real counter you just increment like this, 1 1 1 1, right? So we need to do that, and that we can achieve by implementing that in loop, right? So let's implement a loop over here. So we need to figure out like what all we need to put inside the loop, right? So we have a keyword loop, right? Now whatever we write inside this will be looped until we will not introduce any condition that will break the loop, right? So if we don't implement any like breaking condition over here, any condition that will break the loop, it will run to eternity. So let's just copy this thing because we want the user to match it. This case is definitely going to be inside this because we want the user to keep entering the value, right? So we will introduce another case over here that will break the loop, exit, right? If a user presses exit, then we have created our exit case as well. Now there is something potentially wrong with this, at least with this implementation now, because user is being asked outside the loop, so the user input will be recorded only once, and this will run to eternity. That will definitely will go somewhere, like crashes the application or breaks. So we want the user to keep entering the input, right? So we need to enter these things as well. So just copy it and move it inside loop, and let's save it. All right, before value of counter 0. So let's remove this for now. Okay, let's build our project. All right, build successfully completed. Now running the project, cargo run. Welcome to the counter program. Enter your command inc dec reset and enter exit to log out. All right, let's say we want to increment the counter incremented by 1. Again we want to increment the counter. You see the value are getting updated by 1. So initially it was 1, then 2, then inc it's 3, then again inc it's 4, then dec 3, dec 2, right? Now I want to reset the counter, so the counter value should be now to 0. Okay, after like reset, the counter is set to 0. Now I want to exit this. I will use exit command. All right, exiting the program. There you have it, a simple command line utility that you guys have created. Now these type of exercises, they really like help to be comfortable around any new programming language. So yeah, one more tip. If you go to Rustlings, like you can set it up on your local system. Let me just show you. So as you can see, this guy Rustling over here, in this project you will like see a lots and lots of exercises. So there is a tape, right? So once you learn any concept, move to the exercise as fast as you can, right? Like complete the exercise, go over to there. It's not much a big deal, right? So it's hardly a grind of 3 to 4 months, right? So totally depends on you guys, right? So what I will suggest is after learning a new concepts, or after learning anything new, you should go to the exercises section, right? So this is the great way to do that. And this guy over here Rustlings provides like very good exercises over here. So this way you can also have your open source contribution as well if you guys like push it over there, but always be mindful and follow the guidelines. All right, that's it for today's video. See you guys on the next one. Till then, stay happy, keep grinding. Also don't forget to subscribe this channel, that will be a huge motivation. And see you on the next one. Bye bye.